Molly's broke and it gave her a rash.
Yeah, it gave other people rashes too.
Yeah.
That I gave it to.
Oh, well, we need to tell him that.
You're a good dog. You're a good dog.
It's gold, mine.
I just have hemp.
Yeah, I wanted to get Joe a nice chain for his.
I think it'd be nice to have silver. Healing properties of silver.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
What kind of success have you had with the green rock?
Okay, let's go together, and I'll get a free one, and you'll pay for it.
Nice.
Have you seen him?
You can come in for my
awesome.
you can
He's
come in for my
incredible.
free treatment.
You know,
Yeah.
I looked at the first DVD I made when I came up there, and I really was a wreck. And afterwards, you know, it just sends this energy through you. I've got photographic evidence.
So Joe, you have a stone,
I do.
and you've been working with Jay's Rocks for
Like 4 or
6
5 months?
4 or 5 months?
I think so.
So I'm interested in hearing your experience with them.
I guess my first experience, I bought a rock for myself, and I think just myself. And I started wearing it, and then I got one for my girlfriend, Kyra, and then we started wearing the rocks, and my first week, or actually the first 2 days, I didn't really follow the directions, and I wore it for 2 days straight, drinking the water. I was drinking like 5 or 6 glasses of water. You're only supposed to drink 1 or 2 a day.
So not following the directions, you mean you overdosed?
I overdosed on it. Yeah.
You didn't follow the directions to kind of go slowly into it.
Right, and I wore it for 2 straight days, and at the end of the second day, I did a class of yoga. I came back to my apartment, and I had a phone conversation with my father, and I was like high on life, felt really good, and then I put the rock back on, and like I went past over the edge kind of thing. My immune system, I think, crashed, and I got a little sick, and then I was kind of achy for a few days, and then after the first week, I think in my experience so far, that's definitely one of the more extreme cases of some, like, my experience is definitely on the more extreme side in terms of side effects in the first week. And after about 4 or 5 days, 6 or 7 days, increased energy started happening. I started sleeping a lot better. All the achiness and all that kind of stuff went away. And then for the next couple weeks, I've always had really bad teeth and gums, really bad gums. And my gums started bleeding a little bit more when I was brushing my teeth and stuff. And my breath was actually like, it was like it felt like something was coming out. It was just kind of tasted worse. And then after about 3 weeks, my teeth were much better and my gums stopped bleeding. And then I went to the dentist because I was going on vacation to Santa Barbara to visit my sister. And I had been to the dentist about 3 or 4 months earlier, and he'd done a cold test on my whole lower jaw and found that I was non-responsive in 2 teeth. So
What's a cold test?
A cold test when they put liquid nitrogen on the tooth
To see if
you can feel the nerve.
I see.
And
So that's like when they say if you feel when you drink cold water, they want to know whether
right,
that hurts.
it's something like that. But this is the extreme test to see this is for partially dead nerves, and I didn't have any feeling in 2 of my teeth. And then after wearing the rocks for about 3 or 4 weeks, I went to the dentist, and he'd also done a laser test. They have this new technology where like the laser, and you can feel electrical, you can feel a sensation if your nerve is alive, and I didn't have any in those 2 teeth. And then after about a month, I went to the doctor or the dentist, and he did a cold test just to see, if any of how my other teeth were doing, and I had feeling in both of those teeth. And he'd said he'd never seen anything like it in his career. He couldn't believe it, and I was like, "Oh, it's this rock." And he was like, he wrote it down, and I actually haven't been back to him since. So that was my first wow, this definitely works. And then aside from that, after that, I bought about a whole bunch of rocks, probably like 20 necklaces and 20 water stones, and I started giving them to family members or selling them to people that I came across. And one woman, I'd started dog walking. I quit my job selling organic beer, and I started dog walking just here and there for about a month, and I met this woman who had really high blood pressure. and within the first week of her wearing her rock, her blood pressure was actually, I guess there's two readings on blood pressure. There's or is it blood pressure or cholesterol I'm talking about?
Cholesterol, I think, has two readings.
Yeah, okay, so her cholesterol is really high. The bad cholesterol was above 100, and the good cholesterol was above 200. That dropped down after about 3 weeks, or 4 weeks. It went from 210 all the way down to 150, and then the bad cholesterol dropped from, like, I think it was at 106, and dropped below 90. So she had considerable results with that, but even better than that was her daughter's dog in Connecticut was about 12 years old and was wheezing and panting, not wanting to get up anymore, starting to lose sensation in his back hips, like a lot of dogs who are kind of, really old. And I just gave her the rock. I didn't, I was like, just put it in the dog's water bowl, get a big bowl so it can saturate with radioactivity. And within 4 days, the dog's wheezing, actually within even the first few couple days, the dog's wheezing and panting started to subside. After about a week, he started wanting to go out more often, which was a good sign. And after about 3 or 4 weeks, the dog started jumping the fence in the backyard, which he hadn't done in years. And that month, they thought they were going to put him down. He's still alive. He's still doing well. And it's been about, I don't know, probably 3 months since then. So she's doing really, so that dog's doing well. I had someone else who had genital herpes who started wearing the rock, and on their, people are really bad about kind of really paying attention to themselves when they're wearing these things. And I found this out 3 weeks after it happened, but on the 4th or 5th day, she had a really bad outbreak, the worst outbreak she'd ever had on the rock, like ever before. And she hasn't had an outbreak since. So she does take, some anti-horrific, I think it's called Valtrex. So, there's no real telling if it's totally gone. Also, let's see, I gave the rock to my sister. She's always had a kind of problem with eczema and stuff like that. Her skin's totally cleared up. My skin's cleared up considerably since I've been wearing the rocks. I had somebody else who was a chronic cocaine user, and the first 2 weeks while wearing the rocks, their sinuses, it felt to them like their sinuses were flushing out. So, yeah, I've had a bunch of different experiences with them, and I still wear mine. I've worn it pretty consistently. When I don't wear it for a while and I put it back on, it seems like I'm still acclimated to it, so it's not like I need to go through the reacclimation like when you first wear it for that first week. I'm trying to think who else.
So is it's my understanding, I'm wondering if it's your understanding, that when these symptoms get aggravated in the beginning, that we, in the holistic health field, we call that die-off. Mm-hmm. That it's like these little critters, the microorganisms that are being killed literally by the low-level radiation. It's like their last hurrah, and they are screaming out, "No, don't kill me!" Yeah,
I would agree. Yeah, it's definitely something like that, and I think that people, that's where there's kind of like a little bit of, taking a little bit of faith to believe in it and keep doing it through that period, because that if you're able to do that, that's when people start getting better, is when they get sick first.
Well, I've been involved in holistic treatments of cancer for close to 40 years now, and my experience is that period is always really crucial, because that's the acid test of whether they're going to go forward and really let this stuff clear out, or they get too scared, and then they fill themselves with more drugs, and then it gets even harder. And I remember you telling me something about you had one of those man-of-wars stung you here, and and you were doing a different treatment, a magnetic pulse treatment, and you say every time you do it that, or no, I think you were saying every time you do a colonic.
Yeah, colonic. The first time was with the electromagnetic pulse therapy. Every time I do a colonic, I get kind of this
where he stung you.
Yeah, I got stung on the whole arm, but for some reason here, and whenever I'm very unhealthy, like coming out of college, I still drank a considerable amount. When I was unhealthy if I'm still unhealthy with my diet chronically, then I'll get a red rash right here, and I haven't gotten one.
So I'm going to tell you a little story that happened to me. My father had hay fever like nobody's business. My brother had hay fever so bad he actually got out of the Army for it. So I always had colds when I was growing up, and my father used this. It was called Rhinol nose drops. They don't make it anymore, but it has such a distinctive taste and smell, and I grew up with that smell all the time. And so whenever I would get a cold, like father, like daughter, I would use these Rhinol nose drops even, up until after I left home. I was still using Rhinol nose drops. And then I became acquainted with this idea of detoxification and healing crises, or die-off as they call it now. Bernard Jensen used the word healing crisis. And so I was doing a lot of juicing, and I was doing a lot of colon cleansing, and one day, it had to have been 20 years since the last time I had these Rhinol nose drops. All through my head was filled with this smell and taste of Rhinol nose drops.
Oh, weird.
Because my tissues were finally, 20 years later, releasing it. Yeah. Wow. It was absolutely distinctive.
That's crazy.
And then the next day it was gone.
Wow.
So I think that's what's happening with your wrist, is that there's still some poison from the man of war there.
Definitely. What happened was it wrapped around my whole arm. I ripped the tentacles off, and then it just kept on soaking with all the poison. So I got a larger dose than your average attack.
Yeah.
So I think it's still in there for sure.
Yeah. And were you provoking him the way Steve?
Well, I was sleeping back. I was swimming backwards underwater, and then
he just
my arms hit his tentacles.
Because the theory about what's his name, Steve Irwin. The theory was that he was kind of playing with the guy.
Yeah, and then
that attacked him.
No good.
So you've been pretty involved in holistic health for a little while now, and
well, I've been very interested in it, yes, and trying to become more involved and more educated. I just remembered my cousin had really bad acne for years, like very large acne. Within a few weeks, his acne
from the stones,
and now he's been loaning his necklace to people, so because he doesn't have more than one. But yeah, I'm very interested in holistic therapies, and I think I'm a strong believer that most diseases are, I've been reading this one book about meditation curing cancers and even AIDS, and not, in very quick, fast amount of times, I'm convinced that almost all illnesses are due to some sort of mental imbalance that either stems from some sort of trauma as a child or something as you're growing up. And the more and more when I run into people who are sick, there always seems to be something in their life that they do. I just met a woman who has ovarian cancer, and she what is it she does for she does social work, very draining kind of work that's very taxing, and there always seems to be something. It's whether it's the work that somebody does.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I have a different idea about this. I don't think that stress is external. I think that you can. Did you see that movie? I think it was called A Beautiful Life. About the concentration camp, and was that the name of that movie?
No, A Beautiful Life is a different one.
About this man that had the son, and they went to concentration camp, and he made the son believe that they were kind of just having a glorious time, and the point is,
I haven't seen
oh
that.
God, it was an Academy Award-winning film. It was amazing. The point is, Hans Selye is the one that coined the term stress. And he also coined the term eustress, EU, which is good stress. And he talked about it's really the same concept as radiation hormesis. The dose is everything. And so there can be stress if it's in the right dose, it can motivate us and give us energy. It's when it becomes overstimulating.
Overbearing.
And so in terms of this woman's job is stressful, the woman's job is not stressful. The woman's attitude, and how she copes with her job is creating stress.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So, because job, the same job can be fabulous. It's all in the
Right,
eye
and I
of the
agree,
beholder.
and I agree, and I think that any person in any situation can adapt and be in harmony within that situation. It's just a matter of whether or not they can find that harmony. If they can't, it creates some sort of imbalance, which usually leads to some sort of illness or
Right.
disease or something like that.
I have a patient who, she would say that her job is very stressful. This is for instance, because she does nothing. She's at a bank, and she knows that her job's going to be terminated in a year. There've already been 7 layoffs that she's gone through successfully, but she has nothing to do.
Right.
So stress can be either from understimulation or overstimulation. Most people experience it as overstimulation.
Overstimulation.
Yeah.
That's how I experience it, that's for sure.
So I got into holistic health because my mother got a terminal cancer, and essentially there was nothing that orthodox medicine had to promise her. What's that saying? Something about the mother of invention. When you need to find something,
it kind of comes along. Yeah.
You look.
Right.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Necessity.
Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't want my mother to die. I still needed my mother. She was my mother.
Right.
So I called all around the world when that happened to find out who was doing what with cancer. And that's how I got involved in holistic health. And it was, kind of a slow process, because in the beginning I just found out about diet, and then I found out about detoxification, and then that led to all of these various frequency and vibrational devices that I now love. So it was an illness, that not my own, but still an illness, that brought me to this. So tell me how it is that holistic health came to you.
Well, my uncle, so my father's the youngest of 3 children, and my uncle is a homeopathic doctor, and he has a practice in Houston. He also goes down to South America and does some free clinics down there like 3 times a year. So I think that my first introduction to it, actually, yeah, that definitely was, because this is a little embarrassing, but I had a bedwetting problem when I was a little kid, and like a bad one. Like I was still like 11 or 12, and it was still happening. For some reason, I have an issue, even still, which actually improved a little bit with the rocks, which I always had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I think when I was little, I was just so tired, I just kind of let loose in the bed instead of going to the bathroom. But oftentimes it happened in my sleep. And
plus the monsters under the bed.
yeah, it was. And my uncle, one time, it was parents' weekend at my summer camp, and my parents were there, and they did like inspection every morning, and they pulled. I was always like one of the star camp. Like I was an achiever at this camp, so they were like, my parents were right there, and they thought, oh, we're going to show them how good of a bed Joe really makes. And of course, there's a yellow stain right there, and it was totally embarrassing. And my uncle sent me phosphorus because we had a couple of sessions before, and from those sessions, he decided that he thought that the phosphorus was lacking in my body. So I took the heaviest dose that he'd ever given me, and I never wet the bed ever again. Which is incredible. And so if I really think about it, I guess that's when I first was exposed to it. I guess my desire with holistic health therapy, alternative health therapy, is that I've been very frustrated by kind of systems in general, and the healthcare system right now, I guess, frustrates me. And I have done lots of research, and I realize that there is so much out there, and so I guess that my interest really stems from wanting to educate more people about what is out there, because the way that everything is kind of set up in our society, it's like there's all this stuff that's out there, but people are too scared to even explore it, and what I'd like to be able to do is help them explore it, educate them about it, so that they do use it, because there's so much out there.
It's so interesting to see how tied people are to the medical model, and how tied they are to their physicians, and how scared they are to do anything that diverges from that orthodox
They're so scared.
thought.
They're so scared by malpractice. I just became good friends with a doctor who had a huge private practice in the state of Pennsylvania, and ended up quitting because he just doesn't believe in the system anymore. He still does ER, but he doesn't do his private practice. He was seeing 120 patients a day, and he just didn't have the time to really sit down with them and figure out what is wrong with these patients. And he just ended up, filling out, basically doling out the pills, one by one. So he's quit, and now he's talking about spreading the message of love and how all we really need is love. And all of his colleagues are plagued by litigation. They have all this litigation problem, all these malpractice suits, and everyone's just so scared. It's like everyone's scared of really doing anything. And these rocks, I think, are an opportunity to really. It's so simple. All you got to do is wear it. It's cheap. They last for 500,000 years.
Listen, the average of drugs that any senior is on in this country, it's going to blow your mind. 27.
Wow.
Most seniors are on 27 drugs.
Wow.
And somebody called me the other day. He wanted to know what to do about his health issue. And I mentioned that to him, and he just said, without even thinking or blinking, yeah, I'm on 22.
That's crazy.
It's really scary.
It's really scary. And I've got a lot of friends who are on antidepressants, and it's like they've designed these drugs to make them almost impossible to get off of. And, studies are now coming out saying just that. Like, if you are going to take these things, be prepared to be on them for a very long time.
Yeah, and with the Ritalin with the children, God knows what's going to happen with that. They're going to be the rest of their lives on Ritalin.
Definitely.
Yeah.
True. No, Nick is
a good friend of ours.
He just got put back on Ritalin, been
Yeah.
on and off his whole life.
Yeah.
He was put on when he was in second grade.
Yeah.
And
he has to.
and
be
he
on
has to be on it pretty much,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling, these rocks can actually help with all that.
Yeah.
Because because of my teeth, I believe that they do regenerate. So if they can regenerate the nerves in my teeth, I think they can regenerate anything. So we should do this talk again in 3 or 4 months and see. Like, my mother, for instance, has been wearing the rock for about 4 months now, and she's always had thyroid issues, and I'm hoping that her thyroid will improve. And then Eunice, the woman with the high cholesterol, she's got bad eyes. I'm hoping that will improve. And I've got some dogs who have been sick beyond the 12-year-old dog who's now jumping the fence. I've got some other dogs who just recently I gave their owners some rocks to put in their water, so we'll see what happens with that. But
And we have Lily,
and we have Lily right here.
who was down for the count. Seriously down for the count. I was keeping her alive by rehydrating her at the vet every day, and they all said she was dying. And that the Hormesis water helped. The pulse magnetic that we spoke for a second about earlier, that helped, and the diet helped. She needed raw meat instead of commercial dog food. If you have ever looked to see how they make commercial dog food, that's pretty scary too.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you think you're going to do in the future?
Well, right now I'm getting certified through Integrative Nutrition as a holistic health counselor. I'm working at one of the largest yoga studios right now in the country, Pure Yoga on the Upper East Side.
And you're a yoga teacher.
I'm a certified yoga teacher. Basically, I think a lot of our problems do stem from our diet. And, the second that processed foods started getting introduced to mainstream diet of humans, teeth started decaying quicker, bone structure started kind of suffering, it seems like, and I think it's just a matter of if you're going to eat meat, eating free-range meat and only free-range meat, and eating it in good proportions, and other than that, just trying to eat as much raw foods and unprocessed foods as possible. And the simplest changes, I know that there was at Integrative Nutrition, this woman was, they wanted to put this woman's son on Ritalin and stuff, and she refused. So she switched his diet to, instead of pasteurized milk, to raw milk, and she started giving him cod liver oil. And within 3-4 days, the school called her up being like, what drug did you put him on? And she said, she said exactly that, and they couldn't believe it. So a large part of the problem is just our diet, and we have so much to eat from, especially here in New York City. I can just go out and eat a hot dog on the stand or eat whatever processed food, and if you can just get back to the basics of eating more greens, eating food that isn't, especially animal product that isn't, the idea of a chicken stuck in a cage this big its whole life, or a cattle just being pumped with hormones and only being fed corn, something it's not even supposed to be eating. The idea of that meat being healthy for you is tough to believe. And if you can get good animal products and, ideally be a vegetarian, because it's so hard to get truly free-range meat and stuff, I think everyone's diet would vastly
Jay
improve.
did a little research project in Colorado. He had cattle, and
he told me about that.
that they gave half the herd the Hormesis water with the stones in it, and the other half not. And the vet bills for the herd that was drinking the Hormesis water was much, much lower because the cows didn't get sick.
Right, and they had
Well, they're always
they were
treated
just
for
sick.
parasites.
They had all sorts of parasites and stuff.
Yeah.
But the cows with the waters, that all cleared up and everything, right?
Yeah. Well, because the stone prevents the growth of algae. And this book that is going to be available next week.
Right.
The title is Because People Are Dying, and it's Jay's story basically, and it's all the research on radiation hormesis. And we decided to give the subtitle of the book The Story of a Rock, an Apple, and Cancer. And the reason why the apple is in there is because you see,
about the apple.
yeah, you see two pictures in the book, and one picture, the cover of the book has the stone on top of the apple, and it's in a sealed jar, and then it looks as good as the day it was born. That apple, it's been in that jar for a year.
Wow.
But the apple that doesn't have the stone, same jar, I mean a different jar, but the same kind of jar, it is disgusting, rotten.
And it's also
apple.
been in there for a year.
It's been in there the same amount of time. So the stone, it keeps things young and alive and reduces all of the growth of the microorganisms that deteriorate us